Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavindra ki ISKCON Founder-Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Prem Si Kahosi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Swami Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki Sri Vrindavan Lam ki Sri Navadvip Maya Bodham ki Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktivedanta ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to CC Guru and Gauranga Nitai. Gaur Premanande Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane. Nivazesha Sunyavadi Prashkati Desatarane. Om Aganatimirandasya Jana Jana Salakaya Chaksusamilatan Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manabhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Sapantanda Vanchakopachubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaivascha Patitram Papanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. We won't have an ordinary Bhagavad. I started wrong. Although we have extraordinary Bhagavatam classes every day, today's class will be of a different style because we'd like to include japa chanting in this class. And the verse that we've chosen to speak about is a very important verse, and it has very much to do with the holy names. And it has very much to do with the theme that we would like to establish for today is giving a day to Krishna, giving this day to Krishna. It's a mini japa retreat day that is in a few chunks. And not only japa, but in the later on we'll end with kirtan, chanting Krishna's names congregationally. But this verse that we're going to speak about will begin first by telling a story from the Bhagavatam. Not a story in the sense of something that's not real, but a story in the sense of it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. We won't get to the end of the story today, but we will tell the beginning and the middle. And it is a pastime. That's a better word than story. A pastime, lila, or a pastime that's described in the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam, and it is the pastime of Ajamil. Now, Ajamil, when he was a young boy, he was very, very, very pious. Very pious, a Brahminical boy, very, very pure-minded. But then, well, he was no longer young, but when he was perhaps a teenager, because all kinds of things happen when we are teenagers. One time I was in New Zealand, and during the class, I asked the devotees, and something that I don't usually ask, said, "What is the worst thing that you can imagine happening to you? That's already happened to you. What's the worst thing that can happen to you again?" It's a dangerous question to ask because then everyone's mind starts thinking of terrible things. But anyway, immediately, as soon as I said that, one devotee raised his hand. And I said, "What?" And he said, "Being a teenager again." Because there's unlimited desires. But you don't know how to fulfill them, so it's somewhat a torturous situation. So therefore, in teenage years, we should be very careful if there's any teenagers or any of you are going to be teenagers in the near future. So we should be very, very careful and try to keep our desires very, very focused on something that is going to bring us deep and lasting satisfaction. So in any case, Ajamil will say as a teenager, even though it's not mentioned exactly how old he was, he was very pure-hearted, but he saw something that disturbed his pure and sanctified heart. He saw a low-class woman and a low-class man embracing in an inappropriate way. And this was shocking and a very rare occurrence at that time. But now, if you want to keep pure-hearted and not see anything that is contrary to having a pure heart, you practically have to keep your head in a bag or something like that, or you have to keep your eyes closed all the time. So one has to be very, very sincere and focused to survive Kali Yuga. But in any case, as it happens, Ajamil's mind was attracted. And although he tried to control his mind and focus it again on something pure, he was unable. And although he was married at that time, he was young but married, gradually he started organizing his life around satisfying his impure desires with that very, we can't say Mataji because that would insult all the Matajis, but this prostitute. And first he invited her into his house using the excuse that she'll be our servant in the house. And then gradually he kicked out his wife and his parents, who he was taking care of at that time, who were elderly. Because when the mind is full of obsessed with very strong desires, actually speaking, it is capable of anything. Capable of killing, capable of hurting the ones who you love and who love you the most. It is capable of anything. So Ajamil, in the association of this low-class prostitute, he lived with her, he ate the food that she cooked, he fathered children by her, and to satisfy her need for increasing wealth and money, he became a dacoit. You know what is dacoit? You know what is a dacoit? Do you know what is a dacoit? Bengali daku. Do you know what that is? Very innocent. Do you know what a dacoit is? What is a gunda? You know what a gunda is? Yes, okay. It means someone who, in English you would say thug, or mafioso type, or something like that. In other words, he became like that. He would rob, he would burn people's houses down. He didn't care how he would get his money. He would gamble, cheat, kill. This is this innocent, pure boy in bad association. His heart was colored so badly that he not only was capable of anything horrendous, he actually engaged in continuous terrible activities. But somehow or another, as he aged, and that does happen to everyone, by the way, in case you haven't noticed, we look at the Matajis carrying the little children, and then we look at the Matajis having the older ones in that mood, and then there's this ones, and then there's this ones, and we remember when this one was this one, and we remember was, so one day you're going to, did you know that? Did you know that? That will happen to you? In any case, we know it will. So, and you too. And it doesn't stop when you get bigger. Then after some time you start getting smaller again. So Ajamil, he lived his life in this terrible, improper, immoral way, along with that prostitute, and fathering many children. And he became 88 years old, which is even older than me at this point. And when he was 88, he had a young boy who was perhaps 6 years old. 6 years old, and he was 88. And that young boy, in his very dark life, there was the fortune that he named this young boy Narayan. Now the Bhagavatam doesn't directly describe why he did this, but in perhaps other Puranas it is described, but I'm not exactly aware. But somewhere there must have been some association with a devotee, or somewhere, or the culture was so strong that there's a tendency to name one's children after the Supreme Lord for this reason, so you will always be calling them. Nowadays, they call their children like bubbly or something like that. Or, well, you have a bubbly in your family, no? Or, anyway, so many names. So he called his child Narayan. And then, while he was 88 years old and was living in the same way, he was very attached to his youngest son, Narayan. And as the previous entrepreneur who started the Apple Corporation. As he was once quoted to say, if you live every day as if it is your last, one day you'll be correct. So that day came for Ajamil, that as he was going about his usual activities, and I see this in myself and everyone else, we sort of assume that tomorrow will be more or less like today. Maybe we'll go down a little bit or this or that, but we assume that tomorrow will be more or less like today. But one day, when our time is up and we have breathed our requisite number of breaths and our heart is beaten a certain amount of time, it becomes our last day. And that happened to Ajamil. And when in the great pain of his difficulty, and we can't conceive, when we're healthy, we can't conceive of the difficulties that are experienced by someone in the process of when the soul is leaving the body. We can't really conceive of it when we're healthy, but there's pain, a lot of pain, because some organ is failing. And the life airs are disturbed. That means the mind isn't functioning properly. So when your mind isn't functioning properly and you're in tremendous pain, it's compared the pain of death as compared to being bitten by 1,000 scorpions. Have any of you ever been stung by a bee? Wow.
Actually, a scorpion.
Huh? Wow, you're so fortunate. These people who have been bitten by bees, are stung by bees, they're nothing. How did it feel? Did you enjoy yourself? Very painful. But how do you describe what very painful is? I mean, if you took like a hammer and like banged your hand or finger or something like that. So much pain. So the pain that goes through the body and consciousness is of 1,000 scorpions, it's been compared to. And at the same time, your mind is in disarray. That means you can't calmly think, oh, now this is so painful. I think it's a good time for me to take out my beads and chant my rounds, or perhaps I should go to the temple right now and stand in front of Radhabalava or something like that, or go into Thailand. No, confusion, pain, terror. And that's what Ajamil experienced. So what does one do when one is terrified? Is the mind, the consciousness, grasps at something that will give me shelter. Some refuge, shelter from this situation that is completely out of my control. And that's because we become comfortable because we think that I can control this situation. It may be a little bit bad, but I can do this and manipulate that and move around. We use our strength, we use our intelligence, we use influence, we use our beauty. Whatever we have in life, whatever we have used in our life to get us out of difficult situations and that we're confident of, that this gets me out of, this has so many times proved able to get me out of a difficult situation. At the time of death, everything fails. Everything that we usually take shelter of when we're in difficulty, it fails us. And then the terror increases even more. Good thing I'm giving this class the first thing in the morning. If I gave it late at night, everyone would have nightmares. But it has a happy ending, by the way. So when grasping for some shelter from the terror of what was happening to him and so he called to his son, because one's consciousness goes to where Pashana Pina Pashyapi, the Bhagavatam warns us against this actually. Don't think that your family members are going to save you at this time, but that's where the mind goes to. And that's why renunciation is especially recommended during the latter part of one's life, because it's such a tendency to take shelter of the family members who cannot give us the shelter from the terror of our existence going out of our control, and material nature completely crushing us. So in that state, the tendency is to take shelter of family members, etc., who cannot save us. All they can do is look on and experience pain because their loved one is suffering and there's nothing they can do about it. And if any of you have seen your parents or grandparents go through something like that, it's so disheartening, because the people who you love so much are suffering and are leaving, departing, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't repay them. There's nothing you can actually do, and it's just very disheartening. So the reason why renunciation is stressed is not that there's anything on one level that's glorious about not being with one's family members, but it's meant to be a practice for when these shelters aren't available, my house, the soft chair that I really like to relax in, and this and that, and none of those things are available for me. Well, what will I do? Well, if I'm trained properly, what we're supposed to learn to do in renunciation is turn to Krishna, an actual shelter, asraya, Krishna is actually called in the second canto of the Bhagavatam Mukti Asraya. That's the Nirodha Mukti Asraya. He is even the shelter, the Asraya of even Mukti, of liberation itself. And therefore he's called Mukti Pade. So, the calling out to Krishna in the most difficult circumstances is and we go through minor difficulties, minor deaths in one sense, when we don't get what we want in life. So the practice should be to turn to Krishna. And the practice is the time of death, and therefore the Bhagavatam recommends Ante Narayana Smriti, because Sadatat Bhava Bharata, whatever we're thinking of the time of death, we go there. Adishya Manastam Visha Upasevate. Whatever fills the consciousness, it dictates where we will go. We'll take our next birth. So he, Ajamil, being completely entrapped as a gunda, a dacoit, a completely attached and a sinful person, he called to his son as if his 6-year-old son's going to give him the shelter from this terror that's out of his control and pain. But fortunately, his son was named Narayana. So when he called out full-heartedly, Narayana, he had called the holy names of the Lord. The holy name, but he's calling out again. So at that time, because he was so sinful, the Yamadutas appeared, who increased his terror because they're fearsome. And they were. Has any of you have ever seen the Yamadutas?
Not yet.
You will never see them, don't worry. This is the Lord's promise. But sometimes downtown you see them. People at midnight, around that time, as they say in New York, the creatures come out of the walls at midnight. The ones who love darkness. So terrifying. They came out ferocious and terrifying. Servants of Lord Yamaraj, who's one of the Mahajanas, but their service is a terrifying one. They pull the soul from the body when the person, that's called death. So they began to pull with their ropes Ajamil from his body. And Ajamil was crying out, Narayan, Narayan. And then the Vishnu Dutas appeared, the servants of Lord Vishnu. And they said, stop. You cannot take him. We must take him. It is for his good. We will take him to Yamaraj, who will type in his name into the database and call up his record, and he will punish him for all the improper activities he has committed, and that way he will be purified and he will learn to not do these things again. And the Vishnu Dutas said, this is very unfortunate. And he was not referring to what Ajamil had done. He was referring to something more subtle and something more unfortunate. The Vishnu Dutas said that although you are the one who is the servant of Dharmaraj, of religious principles himself, you do not understand the principles of religion. You are misinformed. And the Vishnudutas were not grotesque. They were beautiful, effulgent, and powerful, and they stopped the Yamadutas. And they begin, this is the second canto of the second chapter of the sixth canto, and they begin to explain the power of the holy names of Narayana. They said, because he has uttered the holy name of the Lord, of Krishna, he is actually sinless. He is actually sinless. He has uttered it without offense. Now there is a whole wonderful theology of the holy names, and it's like in this verse, Srila Prabhupada didn't include a purport, but actually Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has a long commentary on this set of verses. And Srila Prabhupada in his Bhagavatam, although he hasn't given a purport, he has included this commentary as an appendix to this chapter. Did you notice that when you studied the Bhagavatam? To this chapter, at the very end of the chapter, there's a long appendix, which is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary to this verse. So the Vishnudutas explained to the Yamas that you want to give him these punishments as atonement to remove the reaction of sins. This seems to be a bit too loud. To remove the reactions for the sinful activities he's committed. But actually, this verse describes, as they're speaking, that chanting of the holy names is the greatest atonement. It removes all reactions. Now, we know Namad Baladyasya Papabudi Navidite Tatyinyamarahi Shuddhi, that committing sinful activities on the strength of the holy names is aparad, namaparad. And it is forbidden, but we want to just keep the flow of what they're saying, that this is the greatest method, best method of atonement. The best method of atonement, for many reasons. And we won't go into all the reasons right now. And then they list so many terrible things that someone can do in their life. The best process of atonement, if it's a thief, if one drinks alcohol, betrays people, engages in illicit activities, it is the best method of atonement even for murderers of superiors, one who even has engaged in the unspeakable activity of killing animals. And then, to conclude that section, the Vishnudutas speak this verse. Now this verse is Savesham api agatvam. Please repeat. Savesham api agatvam. Could you see if that paper that you had printed is... Oh, here it is. I have it over here. Okay, I have it. Savesham api agatvam. So Savesham means, as we know, of all. Savesham, of all of them. Api, although, agavatam, of all persons, even persons who have committed agatvam, sinful activities, many sinful activities, idam eva sunishkritam, even if one has committed so many sinful activities, sunishkritam means it is the best or perfect method of atonement. This is certainly eva, idam, this, eva. This is certainly, even if someone, savesham, committed all kinds of sinful activities, idam eva sunishkritam, it is the best of methodologies of atonement or removing the sinful reactions. And then, nama, and what is that best of all methodologies of atonement? Nama Vyaharanam Vishnu. Everyone? Nama Vyaharanam Vishnu. Nama, the holy name of the Lord. Vyaharanam, chanting the holy name of the Lord, of Vishnu. This is the best methodology of atonement. And then in the next line of the verse, Yatatas Vishamati, it tells why. Now we know already that Nama Namano, Abhina Tvam Nama Namano, that the name of Krishna and Krishna is the same. They are the same. They are the same entity. The sound vibration of Krishna or Vishnu and the person, the actual all-powerful supreme person, they're the same. The sound vibration and the person are the same on the absolute platform. But this is something more, and something even more wonderful. Nama Vyaharanam Vishnu Yatatas, because Vishaya Mati. Mati means the mind or the intelligence or the attention of the person. So because it attracts the attention, the chanting of the holy names attracts the mati or attention of Krishna. What does it mean to have our attention? We know the meaning of the word distraction very easily. What does distraction mean? What does the word distraction mean? Raise your hand if you will help us with this.
Non-focus.
You actually did raise your hand as you called out. So you're, let's see, how many corners do we have in this room? There's 4. But okay. Loss of focus. Okay. So what's the opposite of distraction? Yes. Distracted. And what's the opposite of distraction or distracted? Yes, Paul. That second corner is filled. What's, yes, we're calling on Gopal. This Gopal.
Attraction and is also.
Distraction. If your mind is distracted, has that ever happened to you? You're doing your homework and then sometimes there's even big screens that flash images nearby.
I ask that when I'm doing my homework in my room, I can see people walking by and I get distracted.
Yes, and sometimes the mind goes out the window. Exactly, distraction. So the opposite of that, and what your mother and father tell you to do, is pay attention and keep focused. So, but look what's happening here. That when someone, the Vishnu Dutas say, chant the holy name, Vishnu or Krishna, he becomes attracted to that person. His mind, from whatever he's doing, it goes to that person. And here I am chanting my japa. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. But Krishna, if we chant properly, offenselessly, without our being distracted, Krishna's attention comes to us. He is a person. He is a supreme person. Now, that's the word by words and the verse. Now listen to Prabhupada's translation of this. Is it on there? Okay. Please read it loudly.
Simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord Vishnu, such sinful persons may attract the attention of the Supreme Lord, who therefore considers, because this man has chanted my holy name, my duty is to give him protection.
Okay. Now, we read the word by word. So that's wonderful. That's even more. Not only is the attention of the Supreme All-Powerful Lord, who certainly has the potency to give shelter to everyone in every condition, not only is his attention is attracted, as the word by word say, but read it again, slowly and loudly.
Simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord Vishnu, such sinful persons may attract the attention of the Supreme Lord.
So that's more or less what the word by word said.
Who therefore considers, because this man has chanted my holy name, my duty is to give him protection.
So there's something that Prabhupada has added in the translation that is not in the direct meaning that of the words that the Vishnu Dutas said. And what is that thing that he has added? The thinking, the mind, the thoughts of the Supreme Lord. To know the thoughts of another, you have to know that person very well. Now, why did Prabhupada add this? Prabhupada, being an extremely realized soul, but also being very humble and following in the disciplic succession, was not saying that I know the mind of the Lord, and this is what he's thinking. But rather, please listen to just the beginning of the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and then we'll understand why Prabhupada added this. The name of the Lord, he's starting with like Purvapaksha, he's starting with a doubt or an opposing view. The name of the Lord may destroy sins, but how can namabas, meaning chanting offenselessly, as Ajamil was, be the atonement for thousands of very grave, terrible sins which cannot be destroyed by thousands of 12-year vows? How is it possible? This Ajamil was so sinful that how could Namabas, just chanting the holy name without an offense, how could it have destroyed so many sins? Practically unlimited sins. His life was a series of continuous sinful actions. And then here's the reply. Chanting is the best atonement, suniskritam, since it destroys the root of sin. A 12-year vow of atonement, though it destroys the effect of sin, cannot destroy the root of sin. So if one has read the earlier part of in the first chapter, this is of the 6th canto, this question comes up, why Gyan is insufficient and why holy names is sufficient, because it can pull out from the heart the very root, the cause of the tendency to sin. But this is not the only result that it can pull out the tendency to sin. Because from chanting the holy name of the Lord, the mind dwells on that person who chants Tad Vishyamati. And then the Lord thinks, this person belongs to me. I will always protect him. So Prabhupada was quoting actually just from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. This person belongs to me. I will always protect him. So where did Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, was he saying, yes, I know the mind of the Lord? And then the next line this is Sridhar Swami's meaning of the phrase. So he is taking it just from Sridhar Swami, who Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said he is the authorized commentator on the Bhagavatam. He gives the meaning of the Bhagavatam, and everyone who comments on the Bhagavatam after him has to be in line with Sridhar Swami. So this meaning comes from Sridhar Swami himself. This person belongs to me. I will always protect him. And just another 2 sentences or 3 sentences. Hearing his name being chanted, meaning the Lord, and remembering Ajamil, the Lord ordered us, the Vishnu Dutas, to bring Ajamil, who is chanting his name, to bring him to him or to save him. Now, this is called, the next part of this is called Kamutya Nyaya. What does that mean? Kamutya Nyaya means that, say there's a person with this much wealth, and this person over here is the one who just gave him that wealth. So Kamutya Nyaya means, I say that this person is so wealthy, you cannot believe how wealthy this person is. So what is what does that imply? That this person, what to speak of how wealthy this person is, if this person has so much wealth, if just by saying that, immediately we understand, well, the person who benedicted him with that wealth must be so much more wealthy. That's called Kamutya Nyaya. If this is true, just imagine like that. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, hearing his name being chanted and remembering Ajamil, the Lord ordered us to bring Ajamil, who was chanting his name. Then how much more the Lord will remember a person who chants his name with a service attitude. Oh Lord, please accept me as your servant. Please allow me to serve you. Ajamil was just calling his son, and it attracted Krishna's attention. Ajamil was so sinful, but aside from that, he was just calling his son's name, Narayana. And still the Lord took it as we heard when Jagatrini Mataji spoke on this, she remembered a point that His Holiness Radha Govinda Maharaj had brought out. It said, because the name Narayan, he was calling his son, but it's not, but he named his son after the Supreme Lord. So the name was actually Krishna's name. It's actually Krishna's name. We're just using it. So what to speak of? Someone who's chanting with a service attitude, let me serve you. Oh Lord, let me serve you. This is my desire. Please accept me as your servant. Don't look at my disqualifications, but I beg you to accept me as your servant. what to speak of someone who's exalted in devotion. The chanting that they do has the Lord, has Krishna completely captivated. So today is a day that we would like to suggest that why don't we offer this day to Krishna and take up this. We'll chant till 9 o'clock, japa, and then at 10:30 we'll begin. We'll begin kirtan at 10:15, and then at 10:30 in what's the name of the Middle Park Primary School, which is just a 5-minute walk away, approximately. Okay, Sri Chaitanya Prabhu can tell anyone who doesn't know where it is. But we're going to try to be there, gather there, in a mood of this is a time through chanting Krishna's name, a very private time that I can be with Krishna. It's sort of what everyone is longing for, some time that they could be with Krishna. So this is a time we've separated for that. So if you wish to come on time, because or unless you have something more important to do than being with Krishna. Try to, then there's no problem, you can come. Sometimes serving Krishna even is more important than being with Krishna. But in serving Krishna, you will be with Krishna. But it's a way to show respect to the process that we're going to do, is try to keep in a focused mood of being with Krishna in the form of his holy names. So we're going to begin kirtan at, see if you can not bring your mobile phone with you. What is, His Holiness Sachinanda Maharaj, I'm not sure where he got it from, but he calls it a weapon of mass distraction. So see if you can be so bold to be without your mobile phone from 10:30 till 12:30. Can you do it? It's easy for you to say because you don't have one. You're not yet addicted. Well, maybe you won't, by Krishna's mercy. But see if you can do it, just to make a little test. But I would suggest don't leave it in your car because someone will steal it. Well, that can happen anyway. So come in the mood that this is a very special time for me to be with Krishna. Just chanting Krishna's names in that mood. So now take out your beads, and we'll be talking about how to chant, and I'll try my best to help you during that time when we're together. So we'll meet from 10:30, we'll begin exactly, and prasadam will end at exactly 9 o'clock. And of course, if you have time, you can come early and chant. And then at 12:30, maybe 12:45, because prasadam will be 1, so we'll end here at 1, so we'll give everyone time to get here for prasadam. And then after that, we'll meet again at 4 in the very same place and chant in a very sober mood. And a good way to to join in a sober mood is to be in a sober mood before. Try to keep focused, just this one day. Try to keep focused on that. I want to be with Krishna today. And then from 4 to 5:30 we will chant japa again, and then from 5:30 to 7 we'll congregationally chant Krishna's holy names. And yes. Okay. chant in front of Sri Gonatai, Sri Radhaballabha, Sri Jagannath Baladev, Subhadra Devi is very fortunate, and Srila Prabhupada over here. So I suggest we face them. But just try to keep focused during this time. And if your mind wanders, don't worry, it's natural, but just refocus your mind. And just try your best to hear, to be with Krishna in the form of his holy names by hearing. So take shelter of and ask for special blessings from Guru, Vaishnavas, the Supreme Lord. What to speak of one who chants in a serving mood. And if you can't come to all the sessions, come to any session you can. But come in the right mood. To be with Krishna in the form of his holy names. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.